RX Television, RXMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave, brought to you as always by Species Nutrition. Visit speciesnutrition.com. Get isolized and cinnamon caramel macchiato and cookies and cream flavor for $10 off right now, limited time only, and while supplies last at speciesnutrition.com. I'm your host, Sadiq Faruqi. This is our weekly 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. All your questions on diet, training, supplementation, IFBB pros, competitions. Of course, the 2017 Arnold Classic is a mere 2.5 weeks away. Hard to believe that in 2.5 weeks, we're going to be talking to you from Columbus, Ohio, the site of the 2017 Arnold Classic. Couple of programming reminders. Iron Debate featuring Aaron Singerman is tonight at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you've seen the promo, you've seen John Romano and Aaron Singerman going at it. That is going to take place today at 5 p.m. right here on RXMuscle.com. Tomorrow afternoon, Iron Rage with Dave, John Romano. Earlier today, Boston Lloyd calls out Frank Zane on his Facebook page and kind of really sent a big-time debate. John and Dave are going to go at it with that. And then Friday afternoon, a special guest is we're going to have Guy Cisternino, the 212 stalwart, Friday afternoon. All that and more right here on RXMuscle.com. We bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, a lot going on right now with our programming 2.5 weeks out of the Arnold Classic.
Yeah, Quest Nutrition came on board, as I mentioned last week, in a big way, sponsoring all the coverage that will be coming up. We're going to launch this road to the Arnold this Friday with our first interview with Guy Cisternino, who's angry and ready to talk about pretty much anything. So that's going to be a great launch to that. And then obviously we're going to have some great coverage leading up to the show, at the show, and then of course post-show to basically wrap up what's been going on over there. We'll have the Arnold Australia coverage as well. And so it's going to be a monumental effort, as we always do here at RX Muscle, to cover that Arnold. We'll be streaming the Hall of Fame ceremony where they are inducting Herschel Walker and Lou Ferrigno, among other people. So there's a lot of great stuff going on at the Arnold. Before we get started today, I've been conversing with a woman by the name of Martzi de Boer from the Netherlands, believe it or not, and she wanted to let me know. She wanted me to say on the air. She gave me this long email, but I told her I would just. She wants to basically send out a message, a Valentine's Day message, to her husband, Terrence Jansen, and she wanted him to know that she loves him and respects him and loves her life with him. So there's the message. It's sent out. I feel like I did a good deed today, and hopefully Terrence is watching the show. I know he's a big fan of all our programming, so he's probably watching that live. It's funny, Sid, because I kind of have 3 levels now of Ask Dave that I do. I do one on the radio show, not every week, but a lot of weeks. Chris and I will do an Ask Dave and Ask the Technician on Heavy Muscle Radio. Then I do this show, the TV show we do every week. And then I do another one for my Dave Palumbo Experience app. Now, if you guys haven't heard about this, I have an app where basically all the articles and videos I've ever done are right there. Also, we have workouts, programs, we do all my diet information. It's a great resource for everything I've ever done, and there's a calorie counter on there. You can figure out your macros on there, and there's also a way to submit questions, and I answer questions on a daily basis on there, the quick ones, but the good ones I save, and I do an exclusive Q&A video every week on the app, just for the app subscribers. So most people who love this show always ask me, do more. Well, I am doing more, but I'm doing it exclusively for the app members because they're paying me, a premium to be app subscribers. It's $29 a month, but you get a tremendous amount of value. If you're looking for information and if you're looking to educate yourself and you're looking for a way to have a coach maybe without necessarily paying coaching fees, this is for you. Plus, you could submit any questions you have to me and I'll answer them. I usually just respond via the feedback tab on there, but like I said, the good ones I take and I put into a weekly Q&A. Johnny and I film it, I upload it, and so you guys have unlimited information. The app gets updated every day because I got a partner who I give information to, he puts it on there. So it's just one of these resources. A lot of people are always asking me, hey Dave, you going to write a book? This is better than a book. It's a dynamic book that's constantly changing every single week.
So that, and of course, all the great upcoming content that we have. And again, we thank Quest Nutrition for coming on board, stepping up in a big way, and supporting our efforts and bringing you the best coverage. Of course, Dave's going to be there, Johnny Styles, Chris Aceto, myself. We're going to do all that we can during the time that we're in Columbus to bring you all the latest interviews, winners interviews, and all sorts of interviews from the expo and analysis, post-show, pre-show. We got you covered right here on rxmuscle.com. If you want to ask a question, you could join us in the Muscle Central Forum. If you're watching us live on YouTube, you can ask your question on the chat box on the right-hand side of the video player. As always, if you haven't already subscribed, we ask that you do so. You're not going to miss any of our shows, segments, or updates. Twitter using hashtag AskDave, Facebook or Instagram official_RxMuscle. Let's go to IP1211, friend of the show. Dave, is it true that pork meat has smaller amounts of leucine than chicken, fish, eggs, etc.? And would you recommend to eat it in the off-season, of course, on a budget diet?
I have to admit that I have no clue, to be honest with you. Horse meat is a form of mammalian meat. I assume that the leucine and the branched-chain amino acid content or ratios is comparable to other red meat. I can't see it being dramatically different. It might be a little higher, a little lower, but I can't see it being dramatically different because it's this, meat is meat essentially. Muscle tissue is muscle tissues, which what we're eating. I personally don't know if I would eat horse because, it's like, I don't know. It's one of these, it's like, I don't know if I would eat dog or cat either because I'm like an animal fanatic. But
Dave, actually, you may have misheard me. I said pork.
Oh, pork.
Pork, yeah.
Oh, I'm not a pork eater. I don't eat any pork. I'm not kosher or anything like that, but I just don't eat pork. I don't know. I just think it's a dirty animal. The Bible, laid out a lot of rules for eating. It wasn't based on what they thought God was saying. It was based on cleanliness. It was kosher was, they don't want you eating, crayfish and lobsters and crabs because those are scavengers. They eat off the bottom. They eat the crap, the filth off the bottom of the ocean. Same thing, with pigs. They were typically filthy animals, and they wallowed in their mess. So once again, that's why they have these rules. I don't know if it's the case or not. I eat very little red meat, but I don't really eat pork at all. Okay, if I can avoid it once in a while, I eat a piece of bacon here or there, but usually not. And once again, I don't think it's better or worse amino acid profile wise because they're all about the same. All the red meats.
Let's go to super heavyweight. Dave, I'm 8 weeks out, making a comeback after not competing for a decade. Been basically doing no carbs except for a reload once a week. My workouts are starting to suffer as far as energy and strength. It could be a lack of sleep, as I have a hard time staying asleep very long and do an hour of cardio at 4 a.m. every morning. I'm 48 years old, 240 pounds, approximately 6 to 7% body fat. I need to lose about 8 pounds of fat to be contest ready and ripped. I'm only running Deca and Enethanate, but we'll be switching to Prop, Tren Ace, Winnie, and VAR soon. I also have Clen and T3. Should I start those now? You think I should do my reload every 4 to 5 days instead of every 7? I usually do about 200 grams carbs at evening with my meal, and it gets my metabolism going pretty good.
Sid, I love hearing you read the names of the anabolic steroids. I realize that I've completely ruined you. When I first met Sid, he was so naive to all this. Now he knows all the names of all the anabolic steroids. The diet sounds it sounds like he's doing the right thing. He might not be getting enough sleep. He might not be resting enough, and I think that might be an issue. You can't just go balls to the wall every single day. You can't weight train 7 days a week. You got to take days off. If you're only sleeping 4 hours a night, you're not recovering probably. As long as weight is not plummeting too quickly, okay, and it seems like he's almost at a stall right now. I probably would add in some of the fat burners that don't require you doing more activity. Like in other words, more cardio might be too much at this point, but adding the clenbuterol in or the cytomel in, that probably would be the prudent course of action at this point.
B824. Dave, in the past, you've mentioned how you're not a fan of dairy for protein sources. Why is that?
I'm not a fan because it's very hard to digest. As we know, dairy, even if you're not lactose intolerant, dairy does cause mucus formation in the gut. And that makes it hard to sometimes absorb the food because of all that mucus, and you get sniffly, and you get like sometimes your eyes get a little swollen from it. Now, not everyone gets that, but usually when I eat a lot of dairy, I'll find that. I'm lactose intolerant, but I can eat cheese a little bit. I can eat some yogurt. I try not to because I just don't. I feel better when I don't. But I've been having pizza here and there, because my son, when you have a 1-year-old, they eat pizza, so I'll have a slice here and there. And it doesn't bother me that much. But I find that when I'm dieting people down, I don't use dairy because I just think that it's very hard to digest. The lactose content in there definitely makes it hard for the body to assimilate the protein as efficiently. Because let's face it, if you don't digest lactose, your gut bacteria ferment it, creating methane gas and creating malabsorption because you're getting, some people get diarrhea from it, or it changes their bowel habits. So once again, if I'm focused on looking the best I possibly can on the day of a show, I want to make sure that I'm absorbing everything maximally, I'm digesting things thoroughly, and that's why I eliminate dairy. Off season, knock yourself out. If you like dairy, that's not a problem. Okay, I think we lost Sid there. Maybe I could talk about, I want to talk about something, regarding testing anabolic steroids, because a lot of people have text me, they email me, and they're asking me, hey Dave, is this real? Where can I buy stuff? Do you know any websites that are reputable? I don't know where to buy stuff. I haven't bought stuff in 15 years. So what I recommend, however, unless you're getting it from a pharmacy, a United States pharmacy, you got to test the stuff. There's a great product that Bill Llewellyn developed. I sell it. I'm the exclusive distributor in the United States. It's called Roid Test. I have it at DavePalumbo.com. You can go there. I have a whole explanation of how it works, which you buy. I have a video. I have a color chart. It's so simple. You test your products and you'll know what's in there. This way, at least you know what you're taking is good. If you don't test the gear that you have and you're not buying it in a pharmacy, you're an idiot, because it's not an expensive test, okay? It's not an expensive product, and it gives you soundness of mind. And you know what? If you're putting all this effort into trying to put muscle on or trying to get lean, do a competition, at least know what you're putting into your body is real, especially if you're a woman. Because if you're using something like Anavar or Wintrol and you think that's what it is, and it's actually something stronger, you're going to give yourself side effects. And a lot of those side effects are irreversible. So be smart. Check out Roid Test at DavePalumbo.com. I promise you'll thank me for it. Because a lot of people use the stuff and then they find out their stuff was fake. And they're like, oh my God, I've been using this stuff for 6 months and I didn't even realize it. And then some people test the stuff that they just got and they're like, you know what, Dave, thank you, because now I won't waste my money on it and I won't waste my time.
Let's go to muscle_machine. I hate your show so much. I would rather work for MD without getting paid. Why cut back? Dave, at 12 weeks out from a show, how much and how often do you recommend taking Synthol for a lightweight bodybuilder, and when should I stop it?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Synthol is a great product to use. I like using it off-season and pre-contest because it works better in the off-season, because pre-contest your body eats it up a lot faster. Although most guys use it pre-contest because they want to pump up their arms, they want to pump up their calves a little bit, or to a small degree their delts and pecs. There is a procedure to do it. There is a right way to do it. If you guys send me an email at huge285@AOL.com, I will send you guys for free the protocols that I've written up. I have one for arms, biceps, triceps. I have one for calves. I have one for delts. It's a very modest, and same thing for pecs, very modest. It's not a crazy routine for those two body parts, because you shouldn't be putting a lot in there. I even have a glute one for women to enhance their glutes. So if you ask me, I'll send that to you. As far as when you stop it before a show, usually about 2 to 3 days before, to give the muscles a chance to cool down a little bit. Some guys like to use it right up to the day of the show, but I usually say 1 or 2 days before you stop it.
Let's take a couple of more questions from the Muscle Central forum on rxmuscle.com before we go to our YouTube questions. Let's go to Larry26. Dave, hate this show as much as Giannis Makos hates the IFBB. Myth or truth? After a GH-only shot, is it necessary to wait a certain amount of time until I can have a carb meal?
No. I think this is probably one of the biggest misnomers in our industry, is timing of GH shots. Okay? most of these, I guess, protocols that people have made up, don't eat, take it in the middle of the night, when you're low blood sugar, when you have no carbs in your system, these are all conditions that are necessary for your body to naturally release GH. So the body naturally releases growth hormone at night. It naturally releases it when you're in a low carb, low insulin environment. That's when because think about it, insulin and GH work opposite each other. So that's when your body would naturally release it. Okay, if you're injecting if you're injecting the growth hormone itself, it doesn't matter what the conditions are because you're actually taking GH. You're not worried about your pituitary gland producing GH. You're actually taking the GH. So you can take it anytime you want, really, is the bottom line. I usually tell people to take it in the morning because that's when you're the most catabolic. That's when your anabolic hormones are the lowest. So I'm like, put it in there. Counteract some of that catabolism. If you're going to take 2 shots of GH a day because you're taking more than 4 IUs, do it 5 to 6 hours after the first injection. And once again, it doesn't matter when you take it because you're not trying to create a set of conditions for GH release. You're actually taking the GH.
Good question here on the Muscle Central forum from Go Home. What a name. Dave, following up on your rant the other day about supplement companies sponsoring athletes or lack thereof, do you think there is still any value these days in having the athletes talk about the products of the companies they endorse? It seems that athletes these days are only used for their image to bring brand awareness as opposed to product awareness, unlike you who focuses more on product awareness. Also, second part of the question, when you were a metrics athlete, did you speak as much of their products as you do now with Species Nutrition?
Scott Connolly, the owner of Metrics, hired me because I was an athlete who was huge, and I actually was able to speak about the products and how they worked and the mechanisms and the science because I understood that, which is a rarity today. A lot of athletes don't know the science of the products, and that's why these companies don't want these athletes talking about the products because they don't know what the freak they're talking about. Now, they may use the products and they may get good results in some cases from the products, but that doesn't mean they understand how they work. It's a shame because, we do have athletes who work for Species Nutrition. The great thing about the athletes that do represent us is that they actually understand how the products work, so they can actually explain them. I have my friend Ariel Cutts out in California, Armand Adibi, Brian Yursky. These are people that use the product and understand how the product works. So if you ask them the science of what's going on, they can explain it to you. And that's important to me. I want people that understand the science. My good friend Steve Webster, who just opened his new gym in Pennsylvania, he stocked the whole place with Species Nutrition, and he can speak about it all day long about how good it is. Matter of fact, he knows some of the selling points better than I do. We were just talking on the phone today. So it's important that athletes understand the science of the products they're representing. Otherwise, you sound like a bunch of morons when people ask you about the products. So I think that's a big problem in today's society. People are hiring names just because they think their images are going to sell the products, and they do. It would be nicer to get some of these guys to understand how the nutritional aspects of the products work.
I was going to jump to the YouTube questions, but when somebody by the username of YCutBack asks a question on the Muscle Central, this is unbelievable. To this point, I'm actually surprised that somebody didn't grab that username before, but this one, a smart member, only has 3 posts, grabbed the username. So, you know what? By virtue of you getting the name, you get to ask your question, and I will ask it on the show.
In slow motion, you'll see.
Skip Stevie thing, but thank you. I am workout forum. Just work test.
Sid, we can't hear you, Sid. We can't hear you. You're gonna have to say that again.
Better also, I seem to dip out right after a workout.
All right, we got to cut away from Sid for a second. I'll do some talking about some of the stuff we got coming up. Tonight's episode, by the way, of Iron Debate is terrific. I'll tell you why. Because it was like going back old school. If you like old school RxMuscle.com, when John Romano was around and Aaron Singerman was around and I was around and we would kind of just, it was the Wild West, that's what Iron Debate is going to be tonight. I promise you. We got some great topics. And at the end, of course, we talk about MD a little bit. We couldn't leave that off. But I think you're going to like the topics. It's regarding Flex Wheeler being signed by Generation Iron. It's regarding the Dallas McCarver viral posing video that's been going around, and people have been really harshly criticizing him. And these are topics that are on people's tongues today, and we really go and delve into these topics. And I'd like to hear your guys' feedback on these topics, because I think that they're interesting in the sense that everyone has a slightly different opinion on it. I think we got Sid back.
Yeah, Dave, I don't know if you got that last question,
No.
but the question was from it was from the username Why Cut Back. The question was about keto. Says he's 54 years old on good keto workout. He fell out of diet for him. Keto's working after a cleanup. It gave him mixed results. He tests with keto sticks and wonders if there's an optimal zone from trace to heavy to be in. Is heavier the better? Also says that he seems to dip out right after a workout.
Those keto strips are not that accurate. They do show trends well, and the trend he's seeing when he comes out of ketosis a little bit, that's because when you're weight training, you're using carbohydrates as a fuel source, and at the end of the workout comes you're running out of glycogen, essentially. You're running out of stored glucose. And so what happens is your body starts turning itself into a gluconeogenic organism, meaning that the liver starts producing glucose from amino acids. When that happens, sometimes the brain starts feeding off of that sugar. So you come out for maybe 20 minutes after you work out, or you'll see that fade off. Now the problem is that the keto strips are not that accurate. So some people who will read their keto strips and it says that they're not in barely in ketosis or not in ketosis, they actually are. And how do you tell? If you don't eat carbohydrates, you're in ketosis. Okay, you don't need a keto strip to tell you that. So I wouldn't be so concerned about those strips. If you're not eating starchy carbs and you're not eating starchy vegetables, you're in ketosis, I promise you, as long as you're eating enough protein and fat. If you're eating just tons of protein and no fat and no carbs, you might not be in ketosis, because you might be converting a lot of that protein into carbohydrates, okay? And that'll keep you out of ketosis. So the consumption of dietary fat is kind of necessary in the equation to a certain degree, and you don't want to overeat protein as well. So I wouldn't worry about those strips, though.
You're watching Ask Dave on RSMuscle.com. Reminder, 5 p.m. today, Iron Debate with John Romano and Aaron Singerman. You're not going to want to miss this one. Tomorrow, Iron Rage with Dave Palumbo and John Romano, talking about Boston Lloyd and how Boston Lloyd called out Frank Zane earlier today on his Facebook page. And then Friday, Road to the 2017 Arnold with Guy Cisternino. Friday afternoon, all that and more right here on RSMuscle.com. Let's go to our YouTube questions and check in with Kivos or Kavos Magic. Dave, your take on modafinil or nootropics in general?
Modafinil is more of a stimulant product. It's kind of like an amphetamine type reaction you get from it. I'm not a huge fan of stimulants with bodybuilding. It kind of goes against the grain. I know guys like to be up for the workout and they like stimulation that helps them focus in the gym. But when you start using, amphetamine-like compounds, and modafinil is not necessarily an amphetamine, but it's like it works similar mechanisms. What happens is it kills your appetite. You don't want to eat as much. And you might be focused and you might be very productive, but if you're not consuming your food, okay, you're not going to grow and recover. Okay, so I don't like that. I also don't like the fact that stimulants stress out the immune system, and they stress the body, period, raising anxiety levels, increasing cortisol output, which we know is a catabolic hormone. So if you're going to use stimulants, use them conservatively. Don't abuse them, okay? And I think a lot of people do that. They take pre-workouts 3 times a day. They drink energy drinks. They drink coffee. They take caffeine pills. You do all that, and you're not going to be a good bodybuilder. I promise you, you will crash your adrenal glands. You will crash your immune system. And you're just not gonna succeed at what you're doing. The less you use, the better. If you need a cup of coffee before a workout or maybe a pre-workout, that's fine. But you shouldn't be using this stuff all day.
Let's go to Jonathan Warren. Dave, I have a show 15 weeks before the USA's. What do you recommend as far as diet and anabolics for holding condition for that long? Is it better to reverse diet before cutting again?
Yeah, you can't hold the peak for 15 or 16 weeks. You'll burn out. You'll look like crap for that second show. After the show's over, you got to de-peak and go into like an off-season mode in the sense that you're consuming a larger amount of calories. You don't necessarily have to eat a huge abundance of carbs and get yourself out of shape, but you should be eating more food, doing less cardio, doing less fat burners, get off all those fat burners, and then start up again slowly as you get closer to the show. Because if you continue going balls to the wall, okay, you're done. You're gonna cook yourself. You're gonna burn out. I love when I would get these women clients in shape who lost like 40 pounds. They're in the best shape of their life. After the show, they're like, I'm staying in shape. I'm not getting out of shape. I'm like, all right, whatever. Within a month, because what they'll do is they'll continue dieting like they're dieting for a show. They'll look good for like another 2 weeks. Then they'll completely burn out and eat everything in sight. And then they wind up getting, a month later, they're out of shape again. So don't do that route. Understand that you have to de-peak yourself and then re-peak it.
Kyle Gross-Hatton, Dave, I'm thinking about getting into SEOs, painless pumps. I know you talked about it earlier on the broadcast, but in particular, how worried should he be about hitting veins and nerves?
All right. Like we spoke about a little earlier about site injection oils. First of all, there's only two you should even consider using. Chris Clark's synthesized pump and pose is the original. Okay, that was the first one that came out with true science behind it. I'm the only person who sells this, I think, anywhere in the world on DavePalumbo.com. I also carry another product that I'm a big believer in. My friend Steve DeLuca owns it. It's called Painless Pumps. The advantage of the Painless Pumps is that it doesn't hurt. It doesn't leave you sore afterwards because it has an electrolyte mix in it, and that balances out the electrolytes, and you don't get that soreness after the shot. So the Chris Clark, most people feel it's a little stronger and it lasts a little longer in the body. The Painless Pumps is still a great product, but it doesn't hurt. So it's kind of a trade-off. Either one of those. Assuming you pick one of those, okay, and they're both available, like I said, at DavePalumbo.com, not to do a shameless plug, but I'm giving you a shameless plug. As far as needles go, the deeper you put the stuff, the better. So usually I recommend people use 22 gauge 1.5 inch. If you're going to use a 23 gauge 1 inch, that would probably work as well. But if you go below that, first of all, you don't want to go below that size-wise because it won't go deep enough into the muscle. But if you go that diameter-wise, as far as the needle, like you go down to a 25 gauge or 27 gauge, it's going to take you forever to push the oil through that tip. And believe me, you will hate yourself. If you have a needle in your arm, you don't want to spend 10 minutes pushing the oil in. So don't go crazy with the small syringes. I think 22, 23 gauge is perfect. If you got a bigger arm, use it 1.5 inches. If you got a smaller arm, you could probably get away with 1 inch. That's my recommendations.
Tanzi Mashfiq, what do you think of corn in an off-season diet?
It's fine. I'm a big corn eater. I like corn, especially when I go to Golden Corral. That's my new place. When you have kids, you go to Golden Corral. They got great corn there, man. It's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't use it pre-contest because it's pretty starchy, but off-season, no problems.
Again, if you're watching us on YouTube, like this episode. If you haven't already subscribed, do so. You're not going to miss any of our shows, segments, or updates. Of course, so much coming up in the next 2.5 weeks as we lead you into the 2017 Arnold Classic. And then, of course, at the Arnold Classic, pre-show analysis, post-show analysis, interviews with the top competitors as well as from the Expo and a whole lot more. Subscribe. You're not going to miss any of that great content. Rafael Morris, speaking of the Arnold Classic. Dave, your sleeper pick to win the Arnold Classic.
He wants to know who my sleeper pick is?
Yes. Not mine. Yours.
Okay. I mean, I think it's Cedric McMillan's show to lose, to be honest with you. I don't think anyone will beat Cedric at the Arnold this year. I think he's paid his dues. He theoretically beat Kai Green last year. He didn't win the posing round, and that's how Kai Green squeaked past him. There's no Kai Green in the lineup. I don't think there's anyone who's a better poser than Cedric McMillan in this lineup, so I can't see Cedric losing the posing round this year. So, I mean, unless he comes in out of shape, I don't see him, losing to anyone. I think that there's, he's going to have a nice challenge from guys like Lionel Baiki if they're in shape, and Dallas McCarver, and Juan Morel, and there's, Fouad Abiad. There's a lot of good guys who'll be there, Michael Lockett, but I think it's Cedric's show to lose.
Johnny, our producer, tells us that we're getting a lot of questions about Brandon Curry, of course. Brandon Curry is training out in Kuwait at Oxygen Gym, and when you do that, pictures upon pictures. Dave, I'm sure you've seen some of them. Your thoughts on what you've seen out of Brandon Curry's transformation?
Well, you got to remember that Brandon Curry has got one of the freakiest structures in all of bodybuilding. His problem was he just, and I never really saw a lot of off-season pictures of Brandon. I don't know if he ever really gave a huge, crazy effort in the off-season. He's the kind of guy that looks like he really buckles down pre-contest, and that's when he puts his mind to it. I think being out at Oxygen Gym and being in an environment where there's all you can do is train, there's nothing else to do basically, was good for him because it forced him in this off-season that he's in to put on size. Now, with his structure, you could put 10 pounds on Brandon Curry. It looks like 25 pounds. And I think that's what people are noticing. They're like, oh my God. The guy's a big guy to begin with. And when he's full and he's training hard, like I said, 5 pounds on him is going to look enormous. So has he improved? Yes. I don't think he's improved by leaps and bounds that people thought. The true question will be when he diets down, what will be underneath and how good of conditioning will he be in? Because that's always a Brandon Curry problem. When he is in condition, he looks too small. When he is not in condition, he looks good in standing in the lineup, but then when he hits poses, he's too soft. So it'll be interesting to see with all this time he's putting into spending down at Oxygen Gym, which is a huge sacrifice for him because he's got a family. He's got his wife Brandy back home. He's got a bunch of kids. So this is a huge step for Brandon to step out of that comfort zone, leave his family, and go all the way to Kuwait. I hope it works out well for him. I do.
Adam Buckley wants to know if we're going to have a booth, Species Nutrition booth at the Arnold. No, we're not. He also wants to know, Dave, when is your next Secrets to Becoming a Diet Guru course?
A lot of people have been asking me about that, and I can't set a date yet. It goes back to, once again, we're building out these RX Muscle Species Nutrition office studios, which is where I'm going to hold the course, which will be a beautiful place to hold it once it's done. But when you're in Florida and you're doing things with permits in the right way, it takes a long time. I would like to believe that in April, I was originally saying the end of March, and I think we still can make the end of March. The problem is if I get down to the first week in March and then I get a confirmation that I'm done with my facility, sometimes it's not enough time for people to make flight arrangements in a hotel. So I'll see. I'm going to ask people who have been asking me about it if the end of March is good. If it's not, we'll put it into the middle of April someplace. Johnny and I will be actually in FIBO this year. We'll be going out to Germany for a couple days covering that event. And then I will be at believe it or not, the Emerald Cup this year, all the way in Seattle, Washington at the end of April because Brad and Elaine Craig are bringing me out to do a seminar there. So I'm doing a lot more traveling than I thought. So if we do it in April, it'll have to be in the middle of the month sometime.
Let's go to our Instagram questions. Again, if you're not already following us on Instagram, it is official_RX Muscle. Good one here from Taylor Disler. We understand the importance of nutrient timing for proteins and carbs, but what about fats? Is there a better, quote-unquote, better time to consume fats, as in post-workout, evenings, mornings?
The great thing about fats is that they're stored. So it doesn't really matter when you consume them, believe it or not. The only time I wouldn't consume fats is post-workout. Meaning that if you're going to do a shake, like a whey isolate with, like, say, a high weight, molecular weight carbohydrate, like my Carbolize, for instance, you wouldn't want to put fat in there because the fat is going to delay the absorption of the protein and carbs, which is what we don't want. We want it in quickly. Now, if you're in a dieting situation, that doesn't apply. This is off-season where you're trying to maximize recovery, okay, as soon as possible. I wouldn't put fat in there. Every other meal, I definitely would put fat in there, and I would definitely put it in before bed. Protein and fat before bed is the best thing you can do. Raises GH levels, okay, delays absorption of protein, so while you're sleeping, you're going to get a nice trickle of protein into your bloodstream the whole night long, and that's really what we want. As far as when else to eat fats, I put fats in almost every meal I have because, like I said, the only meal we don't put them in is the post-workout shake.
Goldbeck01, don't hate your show, so whatever. Hate that I had to put my dog to sleep today. Rest in peace, Goldbeck. That sucks. We're all animal lovers here. We send our thoughts and prayers to you and your family. Let's go to Scotty_Bernal. Dave, do you cut whey isolate shakes closer to a show date?
If you're using a good whey isolate, that has no carbs and, virtually no carbs in it, and that it's super high quality, you can keep that whey isolate in up until a day before. Usually for a Saturday show, if I cut out whey shakes on Thursday. So Thursday you can have them, then the Friday, the day before the show, I don't allow people to have shakes.
We're getting a lot of questions, Dave, about the second generation iron. I don't know if you saw the trailer or not, but a lot of people are weighing and they want to know your thoughts on their new documentary.
I saw the trailer. I see where they're going. It's really not Generation Iron. It's more like Generation, Internet. They're covering a lot of the social media starlets on there, from the Dana Lynn Baileys to the Rich Pianas. I'm surprised they didn't get Boston Light in there. I said, who else was there? Colin Von Moger.
Yeah.
I think they have C.T. Fletcher in there. So they're covering the industry from a perspective of social media stars as opposed to bodybuilding stars. So maybe they should have called it something different. That probably would have been better. I think people took offense to the fact that it's not really about bodybuilding. I mean, I saw they have Kai Green in there. I don't really know. The funny thing is, I don't know what the theme of the movie is, because usually when you watch a trailer, you can kind of pick up the theme. I didn't get a specific focused theme on what they're going to be talking about, other than the fact that they're going to feature all these social media guys and girls they're so popular nowadays. Once again, I don't know. Maybe they're just trying to get people interested in seeing it. I hope they do a good job. I'll say one thing. They got terrific cinematography, and they got terrific editing people over there. Top notch. I wish I had a staff, Johnny and I had a staff like that working under us who can edit and shoot like that. It's got to be super expensive. So they definitely went high end on whatever they did. I hope it's good because I want to watch it, but, we'll have to find out, I guess, in May when it's released.
Take a couple of more questions. William Blake Stansel. Dave, what do you think about some so-called gurus saying artificial sweeteners cause an insulin response? If that is true, does it matter if you're not eating carbs?
Yeah, I mean, that you kind of said it. If you're not eating carbs and you got an insulin response, who cares? I mean, yeah, you might get a little low blood sugar, but you're not gaining any body fat from it. These people most of these anti-artificial sweetener people, they first try to pull the old, it's going to cause cancer and kill people. But because there's no dead bodies from the stuff, and these artificial sweeteners have been out for 30 years, they can't do that anymore. Now they're saying, well, it's going to make you fat. That's the newest rhetoric. You drink diet sodas, you're going to get fatter. No, you won't. No, you won't. People, there's no calories in them. Okay. Now, if you use the Diet Coke to wash down a donut, okay, because you're hungry, then yeah, you're not going to lose weight. But the bottom line is that bodybuilders that are super regimented, who incorporate a couple of diet sodas or drinks that are made with artificial sweeteners in them, are going to benefit from it because we're focused. We have our schedules down. We know we're just drinking them for a little extra taste here and there, or we're using it in a protein powder for a little extra sweetness. We're not going to abuse them, and we're not going to allow that to make us hungry, where we're going to go eat and cheat and other things. As a matter of fact, we're using it so that we don't cheat. Okay? We don't cheat. When you have a sweet, taste in your mouth and you want something sweet, and you can actually drink a diet soda, and that'll prevent you from eating a freaking Dunkin' Donut, then guess what? It succeeded. Okay? So yeah, I'm fine with artificial sweeteners. Although I will say one thing: anything in excess is not going to be good. So don't overdo them. Okay? Use them productively.
So we have somebody paying very close attention, but before I get to that question, I have a good one here from Muhammad Al-Fahad. I hate this show so much I'd rather work for MD and not get paid than get promoted to editor-in-chief and still not get paid than watch this show. Question: history has shown us the back-to-back shows. Most of the time, bodybuilders look better in their next show. Example, Arnold Australia compared to Arnold Ohio, European tourists compared to the Mr. Olympia. Why is that? And if that's the case, why aren't bodybuilders using build-up shows before the Olympia or the Arnold to peak perfectly?
I don't know if it's a matter of whether they're peaking for the second show because they're just getting better or because the pressure's off. Remember, the Olympia is the big show. The Arnold is the big show. A lot of people get nervous. They choke. They do stupid things. They make mistakes. And then when the show's over, it's like the pressure's off. The shows after that, no one's really putting any pressure on anyone. And so they relax. They they don't do anything silly. They go back to the drawing board, so to speak. They work real hard the week between the show, and they dry out, and they just peak themselves more, I guess, better. So I don't think it's a matter of whether they're looking better just because it's a week later. I think it's just the pressure's off.
Lastly, jacked and juicy sequence. Dave, what is wrong with your right palm?
Oh, people are very observant. Yes, I fell on my bike. Went out for a bike ride. I go out for a bike ride maybe once a week now, and in the beautiful weather of South Florida down here, and I was enjoying it so much. And my neighborhood has its own little private road, and there's some speed bumps on them, and every one of them is painted yellow. So when you see it, you can slow down or whatever and just get ready for it. One of them right by my house is not painted, and there's a huge hairpin turn going into on my street there, that if you have to be careful, you don't want to get run over, because sometimes there are cars coming through, even though it's a private road. So I was looking, ahead to make sure no cars were coming up, because I was literally 100 feet from my house. Just had to turn this corner, and I forgot about the speed bump there. My bike hit the speed bump, but of course I wasn't ready for it. And if you're not ready for a speed bump, I basically went flying off the bicycle, 100 feet from my house, scraped my hand. My leg is all scraped up. I got a nice one on my elbow too here. And I got road rash, basically. And of course, I jarred my bad shoulder. Both shoulders are actually bad. And I've been complaining for the last week, to anyone who listened to me, pretty much. And it sucks, but you know what? Sometimes you get hurt, you gotta suck it up. So yeah, my hand is just finally healing up. But my son noticed that too. I was giving him the old high five, and he was pointing to my palm of my hand. So I guess I'm a very unobservant person in that sense, but everyone else notices it. So yes, I fell off my bicycle. Luckily, I did not seriously hurt myself.
There you have it. That's going to do it for this episode of Ask Dave. More on RX Muscle coming out in just about over an hour. 5 p.m. Iron Debate featuring Aaron Singerman and John Romano. You're not going to want to miss that one. You've seen the preview trailer. It's going to be a great episode. And then tomorrow afternoon, Iron Rage, Dave Palumbo, John Romano. Friday, Road to the Arnold Classic with Guy Cisternino. For Johnny Styles and Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you in about an hour.